Holy crap, dude. This season end was not something I saw coming, I have to say. I mean, I know, yes, I did read something about Japan arc in the light novels, but I did not expect this to happen at the end of season 2 of The Eminence in Shadow. But goddamn, dude, I'm almost left speechless after this entire thing, but let's definitely go through the episode here and try to make sense of the intense exposition dump, among other things, we got in this season finale. Also, quickly apologize for being somewhat late on this video. Holidays have been busy. So just to start off, we see Etta having some sort of like airship schematics in her hand. We're just like, awesome. Etta is building, I guess, airships now. That's interesting. Also, why is Etta on Alpha's lap and getting patted on the head? Is this a normal thing? Do they do this all the time? What's going on here? Question mark? Anyways, though, when we go back to the fight at hand here in the Oriana Kingdom capital, I really expected this episode to basically just cover this boss fight and have a lot of intense animation and use a lot of the budget on this final episode, really fleshing out the fight. But no, we didn't really get much of a boss fight at all. He got annihilated. Same with Mordred. I mean, talk about a weak-ass wannabe boss. Mordred got defeated off-screen by Beta and Epsilon. I mean, off-screen, dude. You didn't even see anything. He just got beat up and thrown to the ground. So I guess the Knights of Rounds are all pretty goddamn weak. Holy. At least in comparison to the 7 Shadows. I mean, I assume that the 12 Knights of Round is supposed to be the upper echelon, the boss-esque enemies, right? Which is the same as the 7 Shadows are supposed to be for Shadow Garden and Sid. But apparently the power levels are very, very different. Unless it's a scaling system where the 9th seat is exponentially weaker than the 1st seat. Maybe that's the thing. But still, weak as mofo, apparently. I was kind of hoping to see the Shadow Garden girls have way more impact this episode, though, as I mentioned in my last video. I wanted to see the Shadow Garden girls, no, the 7 Shadows and just the other auxiliary Shadow Garden girls have more to do in this episode, like fight some more monsters, have some more screen time, which we didn't really get, sadly, but it was still entertaining enough, and at least they were there. The whole shtick when Sid, lifted his arm and all these people that were supposedly guests at the wedding got up, changed to their shadow uniform, and then went to fight the mini Ragnaroks, or whatever it was supposed to be. I mean, that was cool. I like that, right? Now, before I continue with the whole boss fight shtick here, I do want to talk a bit about Rose and how that entire thing ended up at the end of this season. Now, I was hoping we were going to get, let's say, more development for Rose and how she ended this arc with now becoming queen, etc., etc. And we got some very slight nods to that in the episode. For example, with the maid. Charlotte? No. What's her name? I forgot already. Goddamn. But the maid basically coming and supposedly being somewhat remorseful of how she had treated Rose prior, but after seeing this confession from the king, or the late king, sort of saying like, yes, of course I will obey you, you do what you think is right, and then she calls her Queen Rose, which assumingly has a profound impact on Rose, as you can somewhat see in her expression that this is a title that she has conflicting feelings about. I would have really liked to see more in depth what exactly she's going through, or show more how she's handling this, but we did get to see a little bit in that short interaction, as well as the interaction Rose has with some of her knight guards of what to do and how to, save civilians, etc., etc. So even though I wanted to get way more, let's say, content around Rose to end off this arc, I assume we will just get a lot more about that in some later arcs. Maybe, hopefully. But a decent enough end to Rose's story and character arc in this season, and it was nice to see her finally getting the position that she was always meant to have. Now, to go back to Mordred being beaten on the ground, he does the typical archvillain mistake. The very, very classical trope that I feel like James Bond came up with first, where the supervillain will explain his entire evil plan because he is sure he is going to win and his enemies are going to die and not get to do anything about it. So he just tells Rose and Epsilon and Beta about this whole multiverse thing going on, or a different dimension, and different dimensions, etc., etc. Now, of course, I understand why this happened, because we needed this massive exposition dump to understand somewhat more of what happens next at the very end of the episode. But goddamn, I did not expect this exposition dump, because holy, I had to make so many notes of like, what is going on here? I'm not going to go through all the details, but I did also find it very interesting because I have had questions of how this world really works. Because at first, I thought, okay, is this world just the same world as the one Sid was in before, but he was just reborn into it in like the far, far, far future after civilization has gone to dust and magic was introduced somehow, and that's where we are. But no, this is a different universe, actually, than his own. But we have this whole shtick, world-building exposition of a central world or being or something where all these different universes and worlds sort of go around this central point. And sometimes these worlds or universes, dimensions collide, and then things get shared from one world to the other. And that is maybe how magic got introduced to this world and how monsters got introduced, etc., etc. And this is also how, as we see at the end of the episode, something collided with the world Sid was from and got something to appear in modern-day Japan or modern-day Earth. Not quite sure what it is, but something. We will get back to that as well. I do, again, like, though, how they try to explain that. That's okay. That makes somewhat sense, because we've seen a lot of different architectures and landmarks and stuff in this world, in Sid's new world, and it's been a bit perplexing to think about how did that get there? Because these are ancient old things, but they look to be from completely different time periods, and this would all somewhat explain that whenever these collisions happened between dimensions, people or things or monsters, whatever else, technology could have come into this world, and then things could have been built, and things could have collapsed, and knowledge could have been lost, and that's how all these different landmarks and whatever else have come to be in the past. And this is probably the reason why we had this whole technological period in this world in the past, when they did the whole experimenting on the demon Diablos and the person they experimented on to make the demon Diablos, which then, I suppose, wiped out the entire technological ability of that world at that time. And that's also how magic got introduced to this world and all these other things. Now, after this whole massive exposition dump, of course, Sid just casually kind of one-shots the incredibly powerful, OP, insane monster called Ragnarok. And of course, Mordred thinks that this isn't possible. This guy's literally the most powerful being ever to exist in any universe, and he's apparently also the ruler of the fourth realm, ? But Sid killed him like it was nothing. So, based off that, and based off Mordred knowing what he's talking about, Sid is now confirmed easily the most powerful being in any universe ever. Which I suppose makes sense, because goddamn, he is OP. But how in the world did he get that power, though? I have no idea. But apparently, yeah, he is actually the strongest being alive in any universe. So, yep, makes sense. Yep, checks out to me. And of course, with this whole boss Ragnarok, we also get, again, more exposition of, yes, this whole Dark Rose thing, Black Rose, is just a artificial gate that came into this world when this device was used. No idea how the device came to be, or anything along those lines. Too many details we don't know about this, at least in the anime. But it was the thing that was opened in the past that killed all these Elysian soldiers that were attacking the Oriana capital. How they got it to work the first time, no idea. But then apparently the cult also closed this portal in the past, and I suppose saved the world. And by doing so, I guess they demanded that the Oriana kingdom, as thanks, give like the most powerful royal born in each generation to the cult for training or to be experimented on or whatever else. But that all ended with Rose's father because he refused to give up his little girl to the cult, which ended with them wanting to destroy the kingdom and start anew, because their deal, I suppose, that has been going on for ages past got broken for the first time. And apparently as well, Rose is a really powerful magic user, which I don't think we have really established before this point in time. I mean, yes, she's powerful, but apparently even for a royal, she has like a lot of power. So I'm interested if they're going to go anywhere with that in the future. I was also interested in when Mordred did his whole exposition dump again, and he talked about how things from this world also went into other worlds, and how apparently a whole island called Atlantis, because of course it is, every island that goes missing has to be called Atlantis, right? In any universe. That made me wonder, is Atlantis Japan? Like this island that disappeared in this world went into another world, could that have been now modern day Japan? This island? Is that correct? Again, if you know and it's a spoiler, don't tell me. That's just what I was thinking when I heard that. But yeah, of course, after all this exposition, and after his very bad day, Mordred turns into some sort of half Ragnarok thing after he puts his head into his something. And of course, Sid easily slaps him about and kicks him or punches him into the upper atmosphere and into space. And finally, he makes his actual I'm Atomic nuke happen. Not just the I'm Atomic move, he makes the nuke move finally happen and blows off so much energy, I don't even know. I legit thought he was going to blow up the entire solar system, but apparently not. It did definitely look like it though, just saying. And of course, everyone watching this, it being in the middle of the night, yet still it being bright as day, and everyone of course being in awe of his power. 599 really licking it all up, like drooling almost, I feel like. It's like, oh yes, my lord. I did also quite enjoy that Sid just went on his whole, again, standard cool guy talk. His monologue, like, yeah, I know. One day people wanted more power, they saw lightning, they wanted to recreate it. And he starts talking about neurons and electrons and whatever. All these things, right? And then just goes on to say, yeah, it doesn't really matter how it works, no one cares. The thing is, it's really cool. And then he does the whole nuking. After the fact, of course, he is fine. I can't believe how much radiation these people were exposed to, though. Then again, I guess it's magic, not radiation. Or maybe it is. I'm not quite sure how all these towers work, to be honest. Then that, of course, the girls were like, oh yes, Lord Shadow, you're fine. Yay. But then, I suppose he used so much power, or he condensed so much energy in one place, he created a black hole. Which is like, wow, that is really something. To create a black hole takes unimaginable amounts of everything. But I guess he did. Question mark, maybe. And he touches the black hole because, of course, why would you touch the black hole, right? And that gets him sucked into his own universe again, which was not something I saw coming at all. That was like, wow, really? I mean, okay, I guess we're going this route. I did also like the quick comment when Beta and Epsilon was like, what? What happened? And as then said, he gets back to Japan. And this is what the movie that is coming up is going to cover. I believe it's going to cover this entire Japan arc, which is going to be awesome, I think, because goddamn, dude, I was so hyped seeing the end of this episode, seeing him back in Japan, and apparently what has become of Japan, and potentially the world he is from in general, because I suppose when he died and he went to this other world, it was one of these times when these dimensions collided, and something ended up in his own world, which I suppose was magic or tech or something, like people, monsters, I don't know. Because then we see, devastation, and we see the girl, Akane, from the first episode of the first season, that is now still living in the school or around the school, and it's collapsed, and you see just, again, devastation in the entire city. And she says she's in her 20s now, which means that it's been, I don't know, at least 5 years, maybe up to 10, 15 years since he died, question mark, potentially, but it looks more to be like, I don't know, 5, 6 years, because she does make the comment, why am I still in my school outfit? I'm in my 20s now, but I don't think she means late 20s. I would assume she means more, 5, 6 years, whatever, so she's early 20s, but that would mean that Sid, who was born in this other world, who is now, he's 15, 16, whatever, means that time does not move in the same way in each world, or some other thing is present here to make the time not go at the same pace, or something else. Anyways, not as much time has passed in his old world as in his new world. And Akane, for some reason, she's like a leader in this now, let's say, post-apocalyptic scenario in modern-day Japan. And we see that she goes out to find a friend that apparently went missing and basically died. What she died to is a bit unsure. We see her then activating some sort of weapon, which makes me think, okay, is this a magic thing, a tech thing? Not quite sure. It looks more like magic to me, but I'm not really sure about it. The goons that attack her, which incidentally, yes, is the same people that abducted her the first time in episode 1, are now like tech bros in some way. Like they are sort of tech hybrids. Like they've had their brains messed with and stole some sort of tech. again, it's really tough to know exactly what's happened to this world, or Sid's old world, but Akane is also described as being the savior, so maybe she got imbued by some sort of power when the dimensions collided, when Sid died, or something else happened, not really sure. But we see there's a lot of new tech, at least, and maybe magic in this new modern-day Japan. And of course, before she is killed again doing this whole deja vu, the same setup as the first episode of the first season when she gets abducted, Shadow comes in, or Sid comes in, and now in his proper full Eminence and Shadow getup, beats up the one guy, and then does his very standard, yes, I am Shadow, and I was just absolutely giggling to myself, like, god damn it, dude, they're really doing this. They are really doing this, and it is goddamn amazing. I love it. And ending then the season with Akane being like, Shadow, and then boom, title screen. It's like, you know what? It's a bit weird, but I really loved it. It's just like, it's so batshit crazy, this show sometimes, but it still feels realistic, question mark? Like, even though he just made a black hole or something and went back to this old world, and this entire course of events seem absolutely bonkers, it makes sense, or, well, makes sense, maybe a big word, but it's fine in this universe, in this show, because it's such a ridiculous, insane power fantasy that you just really enjoy it, and you enjoy how over the top it is. You enjoy just how crazy it is at times, and this was a crazier ending to a season than I could have ever expected, so I'm on board. And just thinking about this movie that's coming out sometime, I suppose it's going to be a while at least, just thinking of this Japan arc and how that's going to turn out, just sounds really, really fun, really awesome. And I can't wait to see Sid just being the Eminence in Shadow, doing his whole shtick in this new universe, or his old universe, more correctly. It will be a bit sad, though, if we get this whole movie without having any flashbacks to his old world, not having any Shadow Garden showings. That would maybe be a bit sad, but still, seeing Akane, going to be really awesome, and just finishing off this Japan arc in this movie is going to be really, really cool. After that, though, I suppose there aren't going to be enough material released to make another season, 12-episode season, but by the time the movie comes out, maybe there is to then start production for a third season, which would be awesome. There are a lot of questions, though, about a lot of these things that happen in this episode, like world-building-wise or logic-wise, but overall, still very enjoyable, and hopefully they fill in a lot of the blanks as to what really happened here in this movie, at least on the Japan side, because of course we get very little info at the end of this episode. One thing I do wonder about still, though, is that when Sid went all literal nuclear in this episode, Alpha does the same comment of like, so this is your choice. And Alpha has said this before, at least once, when Sid did something. So does that mean that Alpha knows what Sid is doing? Or she knows that Sid is going back to his old world? Like, does she know something? Or is that just something she says? Like, I don't know. It's just really curious to me why Alpha has used this comment multiple times, especially in this case, as like, okay, do you know that when he goes actually nuclear, that he will create a black hole, and that he would go through the black hole to save his old world? I mean, if Alpha knew that, then she is more resourceful than I thought. Anyhow, though, Season 2 of Eminence and Shadow was a blast. Like, this is my favorite isekai in recent memory, just because it's shameless. You know, it really doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it does. It really blends the serious and non-serious elements really well, and they make it also funny, but still very entertaining, and it feels impactful, you know? It's not like just ludicrous where you can't get into it. You can really leave yourself into the show and take it seriously, while still just laughing and having an absolute blast at how ridiculous and crazy some things are in this show, and just loving Shadow Garden, loving all the waifus, loving Sid, even though you might hate him sometimes. I know why I do. But just loving this whole absolutely bonkers, crazy power fantasy, and just now thinking about the movie and this whole Japan arc, it's going to be absolutely crazy fun. I can't wait for it. And if we get to see Season 3 after that, I'm going to absolutely be loving it to death. I will definitely be making a video, probably soon, next few days, to talk about the movie, what we know, when we might expect the movie, and a short video about that. But yeah, what did you think of this season, Season 2 of The Eminence and Shadow? Did you like the season, hate the season? Did you like the ending of the season? I'm sure that can be somewhat questionable to some people. Leave all your thoughts or your comments down below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Trying to reach 1,000 subs before the end of the year. Looking unlikely, but still, hope you support that. And I will try my best here to catch up on some shows before the end of the year. We have Some 100 tomorrow as the time of recording. Might want to cover those episodes as the final is coming out, or final 3 episodes. Also have some shows I want to cover Season 1 before Season 2's start in the new year. and I'm just trying to get my schedule on track again after the holidays now to get back to weekly, or daily rather, videos, sorry, as it has been very not proper schedule-wise the last couple months. But in the new year, I will definitely have as a goal to make one video every single day for the entire year, and I will do my best to live up to that commitment. Anyhow though, hope you enjoyed this video, this season, this show, and hope you enjoyed your holidays, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.